Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all well, enjoyed lunch. Thank you very much for coming back. We've got two rooms going on here now, because we've got this room, the main theatre, and we're also broadcasting live into the Rise and Shine suite, where the International Standards Organisation meetings are happening. And also, of course, we've got our delegates online as well. So I'm Tony Allen. I'm the Chief Executive of the Age Check Certification Scheme, and we've been really honoured and proud to be asked to put this together, to bring together the global community of interest in development of age assurance standards. The 606 delegates that we have for this conference really speaks to the significant worldwide interest there is in this whole subject matter. And we're particularly grateful to Safe Online. And I'm really delighted to be able to welcome live from, I think, Geneva, I think she'll tell us where she is, Marija Manojlovic, who is the Executive Director of Safe Online. And she's going to tell us a little bit about their work and why this is all so important. Over to you, Marija.
Thanks so much, Tony. Esteemed colleagues, I am really happy to be here with you today. I wish I was there in person, but maybe next time. As we convene to discuss age assurance this week, I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to share with you upfront the importance of keeping children centered in these discussions, as one of the most vulnerable groups in digital spaces. As digitization accelerates, with over 2 billion children navigating the digital world and an additional billion about to be online, the discussion on age assurance and its intersections with children and teens' experiences is a significant one. Setting out shared principles and standards in approaches to ensuring safer online spaces is essential for an open, free, secure digital future for all. This also needs to go alongside integration of robust measures to ensure the safety of children and their distinct rights in the digital realm. Children are targets of harm and victims of abuse online at alarming rates. Evidence and trends increasingly reveal children and young people exposed to violent material and exhibiting risky and potentially harmful sexual behaviors online. Every second, at least 2 images or videos of children sexually abused are shared on digital platforms. Data from our flagship multi-country research called Disrupting Harm shows that up to 20%, that's 1 in 5, of 12 to 17-year-olds across 13 countries were subject to online sexual exploitation and abuse in the past year alone. Data from a recent global survey of Finnish organization Protect Children on the dark web shows that 70% of nearly 20,000 respondents said they were minors the first time they encountered child sexual abuse material. So they were children themselves when they first time saw child sexual abuse material. On top of that, the rise of AI-generated child sexual abuse material, immersive environments and gaming platforms, and widespread adoption of end-to-end encryption generates new threats and complicates efforts to combat these crimes, necessitating a nuanced approach. However, despite these grim realities, there is a reason for hope. We have a solid foundation of knowledge and approaches, tools, and frameworks to respond to these harms and prevent them. To give these 3 billion children a safe online experience where they can learn and interact and become citizens of the future, we'll need an unprecedented collaboration between governments, technology companies, academics, civil society, donors, the public, but also children themselves. First, let me ground what I would like to share on age assurance in our perspective of Safe Online. Safe Online, for those of you who don't know us yet, is the only global fund dedicated to child online protection and safety. We have invested so far nearly $100 million in over 100 global projects with a footprint in over 85 countries across the world. And we work to address digital harms against children, including some of the worst forms of that harm, namely online child sexual exploitation and abuse. And our portfolio includes efforts that have shaped legal policies in over 70 countries. We have generated new evidence and data on online threats and trends. And we have led the design of over 20 innovative technology tools deployed worldwide. These tools have revolutionized our approach to detecting and removing child sexual abuse images and videos, preventing abuse and safeguarding children, including through CSAM and grooming classifiers, triaging and investigative tools for end-to-end encrypted environments, P2P networks, and on the clear and the dark web. Hotlines and helplines and digital platforms, law enforcement agencies, and other key players globally are benefiting from these tools daily. We've also bolstered national reporting systems in 46 countries and established dedicated law enforcement units in 11, resulting in the identification of 3,200 perpetrators and the rescue of nearly 6,000 children. Last year, we've opened a funding call focusing specifically on age assurance as a rising priority in our ecosystem. This call sought to invest in approaches including development of age assurance innovative technology solutions that are scalable and globally applicable. But we also thought that technology is not the only key issue here. We need to also focus on research. That's why we also invested in invited applications that focused on actionable and exploratory research to better understanding the enabling environment, as well as addressing unintended consequences and structural barriers for impact of tech solutions. We received many proposals from various sectors and geographies on this issue. One of the organizations is the Age Check certification scheme for their work towards a common standard framework. We are grateful to be here today and see such incredible interest and participation in this event as they collaboratively advance those efforts. And I'm thankful to Tony and his team for really marching this forward. Other solutions we are supporting focus on various aspects of age assurance. For example, we are focusing on things such as interoperability of technologies, tools for accountability and compliance, understanding children's and bad actors' experiences for further evidence of circumvention, and the human rights implications for various groups of technology solutions. Against that background, I would like to share with you 4 key principles that are guiding our thinking when it comes to age assurance in the context of digital harms to children, which can serve as a path forward in crafting effective solutions to this complex challenge. Number 1, framing, embracing nuance for progress. At the heart of efforts in age assurance lies the necessity to frame our discussions with nuance, transcending simplistic dichotomies of safety versus privacy or restriction versus freedom. We must recognize the nuanced opportunities that lie within age assurance measures, rather than viewing them solely through a lens of limitation. Indeed, age assurance can present an opportunity to invite children into the digital world that prioritizes their privacy and data protection, freedom from commercial pressures, and protection from harmful contact and content. As we navigate the discourse, it is essential to acknowledge the tension between protecting children and safeguarding data privacy that has most often been laid out as the framework within which these solutions are assessed. However, erosion of trust with the public and internet service providers, as well as governments, is salient in how these discussions are framed. The problem is most often defined in debates on the topic as a trade-off between protecting children from digital harms and protecting consumer data and privacy. Opponents of proposed internet age verification measures argue that being required to participate in age assurance is a violation of privacy, as well as highlight risks for identity theft and data mining. These are also concerns of misuse. There are also concerns of misuse by companies or governments who ultimately could have access to those technologies and data. What we want to say is that an alternative and perhaps more expansive framework to work with could acknowledge the technical potential for both safety and privacy to exist in different degrees depending on different digital environments and their distinct levels of risk and user experiences. A more inclusive conversation could also be sure to uphold all rights, privacy and freedom of expression, security and safety, participation and non-discrimination, as complementary and not in opposition. A more additive approach could frame the challenges as how to allow age assurance to enhance the digital experience for children, offering them a safer and more enriching online environment. Taking a different framing could move away from a view of this issue simply restricting access for children or other groups, but rather could be looking at age assurance as a chance to invite children into a digital world that offers them greater privacy, freedom from commercial pressure, content and information in formats and language that they like, protection from misinformation, or material that promotes harmful activities, such as suicide, self-harm, or disordered eating, alongside supporting digital services in their legal duty to provide children with age-appropriate content and contact. Number 2, jointly elaborated standards, a blueprint for effective action. Effective implementation of age assurance measures hinges upon jointly elaborated standards and principles. From the design stage to deployment and compliance, a collaborative approach is paramount. Legislative frameworks such as EU Digital Services Act and Australia's Online Safety Act represent a crucial step forward, emphasizing the need for age-appropriate content and experiences while respecting individual rights. The same goes for Online Safety Act in UK. However, as legislation continues to evolve globally to require companies to age assure on their platforms, striking the balance between different actors in a complex environment remains a challenge. This includes child and data protection, the proportionality of risk, and child rights in digital environments, access to training data, robustness and cost of tools, age differentiation, bias, amongst other things. By establishing clear guidelines and fostering collaboration among industry stakeholders, civil society organizations, and policymakers, we can ensure consistency and accountability across platforms, fostering a safer online environment. Standards are being developed in the space to support accountability and consistency in reporting, such as those that will be discussed in this forum. In taking measures for online child safety forward, we must continue to advance a shared acknowledgement and understanding of the complexity to this emerging legislative landscape that must be considered holistically and with respect to all human rights concerns. Number 3, greater research and evidence informing inclusive solutions. To truly understand the implications and effective development of age assurance approaches, we must prioritize research and evidence gathering. Particularly crucial is understanding the impact on vulnerable groups and marginalized communities. By investing in comprehensive research, we can tailor our strategies to ensure inclusivity and effectiveness. Linked to this is the question of age differentiation at a more granular level being built into tools and policies, or how solutions can better differentiate across geographies and populations. Key questions arise regarding the efficacy and implications of age assurance tools and approaches. Through developing more rigorous evaluation and ongoing dialogue, we can address concerns around accuracy, bias, and circumvention in regards to individual solutions or approaches that involve multiple tools and methods. As the technology landscape is consistently developing, there are gaps that require more research and evidence, such as age assurance and digital identity in decentralized web, or in light of quickly evolving generative AI technology. We look to the challenges of access to training data and can ask, with greater access by more stakeholders, what technical solutions could be further explored? How can we increase this access? There are also crucial questions we should be asking in policy and transparency efforts. How can better accountability measures, risk assessments, and comparability standards of tools be developed? How can the necessary level of age assurance be assessed for different cases, such as online pornography versus wagering, and a unified rather than issue-by-issue approach be taken? Moreover, proactive preventive measures and education initiatives must complement age assurance efforts, empowering children to navigate the digital landscape safely and giving them more freedom. And finally, number 4, collaborative development, establishing baselines for transparency and uptake. Collaboration, as you will see over the next week and you have seen so far, really lies at the heart of establishing transparent and effective age assurance standards. Industry stakeholders, civil society organizations, and policymakers must come together to set baselines for transparency, evaluation, and uptake of solutions. By fostering dialogue and sharing best practices, we can drive meaningful progress in creating safer digital spaces for children. In addition, there seems to be a general need for robust evaluation of age assurance providers and tools. To this end, and in view of the sensitivity of the data collected, the creation of jointly established and accepted standards and evaluation measures could make it possible to ensure the compliance of systems with existing and new legislation. For example, in compliance with the principles of minimization, security of data collected, and purpose. Some principles and recommendations for developing technology and regulation that We Protect Global Alliance has laid out in their recent intelligence briefing on the role of age assurance the role that it can play in safeguarding children online include making sure that we specifically adhere and refer to international standards, education materials, following the UNICEF policy guidance on AI for safe children, experiential feedback from young people as to their experiences of safety tools, transparency, publishing transparent, clear details about how solutions are built using mechanisms such as white papers, independent accuracy reviews and implementation reviews by trusted and accredited auditors like the HX certification scheme, independent bias review of algorithms by recognized experts or auditors, interoperability, fostering collaboration in terms of interoperability, for example, EU Consent Project, dialogue with trade bodies such as the Age Verification Providers Association, Open Identity Exchange, and so on. it is crucial to delve into the multifaceted considerations surrounding this issue to allow for more progress. So with that, if you take anything from what I've said, and I'm sure I've said a lot and have gone around and around, but there are I want to repeat the 4 things. I hope that you take away this. One is, framing is pivotal to progress. We must allow space for nuance and opportunity rather than dichotomies and restriction. Number 2, jointly elaborated standards and principles are key to allow the effective implementation of approaches from design to deployment to compliance. Number 3, greater research and evidence are needed to increase understanding of the implications of different approaches and evidence and tools for various groups, especially the most vulnerable ones. And then 4, collaborative development of principles and standards are essential to establish baselines for transparency, evaluation, and uptake of effective solutions. I really want to thank you again, Tony and the team and everybody who's here. I really wish you a successful week ahead and look forward to the Outcome Summit communique on Friday, which I hope you will reach an agreement on. So wishing you a very successful week and thank you again.
Marija, thank you. Thank you very much. And now let's have a go with the technology and see if there are any questions in the room here in the main theatre, first of all. Has anyone got any questions quickly? One down the front here. If you can just say who you are and where you are from for the benefit of both rooms. While they're doing that, if there's any questions online or in the other room, which are being broadcast into 2 rooms here, Marija, so that I can only see the ones in here, then if I could ask them to put them in the chat, I think we can pick them up from the chat there. Go on. So
I'm going to talk. It feels like with my back to you, but I think this means you can see me. Ian Corby from the Age Verification Providers Association. So thank you. We benefit both from being at this conference and through Safe Online support for EU consent. What was really interesting is that Safe Online this year has extended its scope to look at age assurance. And I wondered if you could say a little bit more about maybe what the debate was behind that decision and why you have sort of branched out from a narrow focus on child sexual abuse, perhaps.
thank you, Marija.
Should we wait for another round of questions, or can I answer?
No,
right
you
now?
just say that question and we'll work out
Okay.
there's another one coming after that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the question. I think it's a really fundamental one for us. What we have seen through 7 years of investing is that you can't really observe manifestation of harms in isolation from the wider ecosystem in which those harms happen. So for us, understanding how and why children suffer such high degrees of online child sexual exploitation or abuse does come back to the design choices of the platforms and the environments that they provide to the users. Hence, the focus on age assurance and age verification has been a really, really, I think, natural extension in our mind, because we do want to make sure that kids are not just being excluded from online spaces or being exposed to unrestricted, harmful spaces. We want to understand how can we, first understand who is who, like how old are the users of different services, but also then how do you adjust the content, the experience, and everything else on digital platforms to the development stage of children. Sometimes we also think about, are we speaking about age or development stages? That's also another conversation we need to have, especially in view of children with disabilities and specific vulnerabilities of those kids as well. But again, for us, this makes sense because we really want to make sure that kids are not being exposed to harmful content and experiences, and making sure that we can build standards and transparency around these measures, but also understanding how can we, past the age verification point, how can we then build experiences that are age appropriate for kids?
Thank you.
Thanks, Marija. Another question here. Do you want to just stand up and say who you are and where you're from? That's very helpful.
Hi, I'm Pratishtha from India. I just wanted to ask, because there's a whole ecosystem of children being online, playing games online in the online spaces, and there is a whole stranger danger connection that gets regulated to online grooming and sextortion and the whole vicious circle. So how is that Safe Online looks into the programs like this? As coming from India, I look into a vast number of children being affected by it, and there's a lack of awareness and also education in those terms. So how is that Safe Online is looking into the Indian market?
Thank you for that question. We actually do have quite a few projects in India, but I do want to first just lift us back up a little bit in terms of children's experiences online. I really believe that there is a big misconception in terms of who the perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse are. In majority of the cases, these are people that kids more or less know or have interactions with. We know the stranger danger narrative has not worked in the offline world. It doesn't also work well in the online world. And if you look at the data that we have, I really urge you all to look at Disrupting Harm findings, which is our flagship research. And Disrupting Harm shows us that across 13 countries, an additional 12 countries we are now including in this data set, kids are mostly being victimized by people they know, whether those are peers, parents, neighbors, teachers, or people they're exposed to. They're just using online means to easily access them and more easily group them. That is not to say that there is not a stranger interaction point as well, and that especially happens in the wider ecosystem of gaming platforms, for example. But it happens less often, and platforms such as Instagram. But it happens less often more broadly. So kids will have been exposed to victimization from people they know. With that in mind, we also take an approach which immediately sets out the framework in which we say it is not children's or parents' responsibility, caregivers' responsibility to ensure safety of kids in online platforms, in the environments, because it is an unfair position we'll be putting them into. We need to first think about the safety of platforms and safety of digital environments they're accessing, and how can we build standards and tools around ensuring that minimum is met as per legislation, but also standards of human rights and children's rights. And then you can work also simultaneously on digital literacy, providing kids with resiliency techniques, or which I think a lot of them have already built over time, and then bridging the generational gap that exists between caregivers and parents. But we will always look at the issue holistically and never as something that is supposed to be the burden of children and parents themselves, because it is not how the duty bears and children's rights ecosystem works. With that in mind, in India, we are working both in terms of capacitating the hotlines and helplines in the country. And we work also with law enforcement agencies to support them with digital tools, as well as we are building a very interesting AI chatbot pilot, which I think has been already rolled out, called Snack AI, which is in English, and is working with kids to understand a little bit more sexuality and privacy and safety in online environments in a non-judgmental way. So there's a whole spectrum of tools and approaches that we are using to approach child online protection and safety.
Yes, sir. Just say who you are and where you're from. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jutta Kroll from the Digital Opportunities Foundation in Germany, and my question goes a little bit into the future. I would like to know whether within SAFE Online, do you consider approaches and concepts that would also work in virtual reality environments, like the metaverse, for example? Thank you.
You've gone on to mute, Maria.
So I'm on mute. That's an excellent question. We each year invite applications that are really looking into the emerging trends. We have multiple times had invitations for that particular area, but we unfortunately haven't received salient proposals. I must say personally, I'm really concerned about the fact that sometimes we are solving for the issues of today and not of the issues of tomorrow. And that is why we also mentioned decentralized environments, because again, application of these, whether it's age verification technologies or technologies for content moderation in the decentralized web environment will be significantly more complex than it currently is. We haven't so far funded any projects in that sense that you mentioned, but we would be happy if there are any projects that you know of. We would be happy to get in touch with people who are working on these and support and fund the proofs of concept for sure.
Thanks, Maria. I can't see the chat, so I'm just asking whether or not there's anything in the chat. Any questions? That's good. I'll finish off with a last question from me then. So one of the outputs from this week of discussion and debate is the summit communique that you mentioned. The intention behind that is to get a consensus view on the kind of current state of play with age assurance. So we've got a statement that basically describes where we're up to and where we're going and what we're trying to achieve with that. That's obviously one of the products back to you as part of this funded project. What do you envisage happening with that next, Maria, that communique? How will it be useful to you in communicating with global agencies about where we're getting to with age assurance?
I mean, as I said, thank you, Tony, so much for that. And I think that the appeal of this project was exactly that collaborative standard setting. I really feel that there is a lot of kind of misinformation and disinformation in this field, and I really believe that setting a framework which can guide us all in terms of future development of both technologies and tools and research and understanding children's experiences online will help us go on the right path toward a more transparent, accountable, and shared ecosystem of tools and players who are working on age assurance, so we can jointly move the field forward in a way that is going to be respectful of all children's rights and not being seen as something that is basically privacy invasive and destroying the online world as we see it right now. Although, to be fair, the online world as we see it right now is not the greatest place of all. So I would not be unhappy if it was changed significantly. But with that, I really hope that this is just an initial step in building this collaborative community globally, and we will definitely be looking into expanding and sharing the standards that come out of this project and working with all of you to advance the field more broadly.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining us from, I think you're in Geneva, aren't you? Is that where you are? Or are you?
Yes, that's correct. That is
Enjoy
correct.
the rest of your Swiss afternoon, and hopefully you can tune into some of the other sessions that are going on, including the UK and Switzerland have got a joint collaborative project called Deaf AI, which is being funded by the Innovation InnoSuisse, and so maybe you'll be able to get involved in that when we're out there. So thank you very much, and thanks for your time dialing in, and
Thank you.
move on. Thank you very much.
Good luck.